Okay, so we need to embrace boredom because it's natural. There's always going to be times where we feel bored, especially when you're on this type of path and you're living this type of lifestyle of stability and clarity and consistency. When you're doing the same things over and over again, of course we are going to feel bored because we're removing the chaos. Of course we're going to feel bored, but the difference is when we feel that boredom, we're not distracting ourselves from that feeling anymore. Especially in the modern world that we live in now, 2025, with social media and all the technology we have now. And it sounds repetitive to say this over and over again, but all the technology we have, and if we feel bored, if we feel just boredom and we're sitting there and we feel bored, the natural instinct is to just reach to your pocket and pull your phone out. And I'm not saying this trying to lecture you and say that you're a bad person, because I do the exact same. If I'm just sitting there and I'm not really talking to anyone, or whatever type of situations, you're making some food, or you're sitting on the couch watching telly or whatever, the natural thing when you don't feel stimulated is to just reach for your pocket and look on your phone and start looking at things on your phone. So I do this as well. So when this is the world we just live in, the modern world, that we can have stimulation whenever we want it because it's just one click away on our phones. When we live in this world, of course we're going to feel bored, because then we get even more used to being constantly stimulated, constantly having something that is stimulating us. The process of doing these things, of training hard, eating clean, drinking loads of water, doing that day after day, because it's going to give you the results you want in the future. The process of doing those things is just slow and it's not stimulating, just doing reps or just doing cardio and you're just sweating and the sweat's just dripping down your head, and then you go in and you're just making food, you're just making eggs, you're waiting for your eggs to cook. It's just a very slow process. It is boring. Of course, there's times you're motivated to train, but the majority of the time, you don't want to train. You don't want to eat eggs. You don't want to just eat basic foods like that. You would rather have something more stimulating. You would rather eat the junk food. You would rather do these things. But that's not important what we would rather do, because we can think with clarity and we can think logically of what we want. And what we want in the long term is more important than the short little fleeting desires we have in the short term. So it's important that we embrace this boredom when we're on this path of living this lifestyle of consistency and clarity and repetition, doing the same things day after day after day, because we know doing these things sets us up for this goal that we want in the future, or this result we want in the future. So it's important to embrace the boredom, because the boredom will come. Usually when we feel boredom, even when we're just doing whatever we want, if we're eating whatever we want all the time, we eat whatever we want all the time to distract ourselves from feeling bored. Same reason, if you just sit there and you're quite bored, you go to the cupboard looking for biscuits, or you might go to the shop and get some chocolate bars or some junk food or whatever you want to get, alcohol. All of these things are just distractions from feeling bored. Because when we focus on these things and we focus on a more positive lifestyle, we are removing the chaos. We are removing the distractions. So then when we remove the distractions, we are open to feeling bored, and we have to just sit there with that emotion. It doesn't mean that something's wrong. It doesn't mean that you don't actually want to do this. You're just being talked into it. It's natural to feel bored, especially in the modern world we live in of hyperstimulation, and everything is basically just like a slot machine. Like whenever we feel slightly unsatisfied and slightly unstimulated, we can instantly have that stimulation again. So when we live in this constant state of stimulation, of course we're more prone to feeling bored when we pull ourselves out of that and pull ourselves away from the distractions. So it's important that we embrace boredom, because often when we sit there and we actually just sit there in isolation and sit there in silence, and we let our mind work and just think about things, that's when we'll have thoughts that we won't have had before, and we'll have thoughts that will make us think, wow, yeah, why didn't I think of that? Or then you will actually come up with good ideas and good ways of doing things that you didn't think of before, because you're giving your mind and your brain time to breathe. You're not flooding it with stimulation. You're just silent, maybe sitting outside just in silence on your own, and just letting your brain have time to breathe and think things through. And because when we feel boredom, most of the things we use to distract ourselves from that feeling are negative. They're a negative vice. They're something that is damaging us instead of helping us and aiding us in this lifestyle. So it's necessary that we have to remove the distractions. And of course, like I said, in removing the distractions, we are more open to feel all the feelings that are natural for us to feel when we are going about our day-to-day lives. So I'm going to end it here because I don't want to just keep repeating myself over and over again. The point is simple and it's clear. We must embrace the feeling of boredom when we are on this positive path, because it's natural. It doesn't mean that something's wrong or that we're doing something wrong or we're not living a life that we want. It's natural. It's going to come because the actions that we must undertake are not really stimulating. They are things that we have to force ourselves to do more than we want to do them by ourselves. So we have to embrace the boredom because it's natural. It's going to come. And when it comes, we are removing the distractions, so we're going to feel it more. So we have to just accept it's going to be there. We have to have that clarity of mind to know that actions we are taking are positive and are setting us up in a positive way, and we're going to reap the rewards of these actions in the future. When we start to get leaner, we start to look better, we start to look more attractive, we start to feel better. All of these things just culminate, and you honestly don't know how good these rewards are until you have them, and until you know what life is like without them. When you constantly have these rewards and you're constantly living this lifestyle, you can almost forget what it's like to not have it. But then when you see other people who don't have it, or you even don't have it in yourself, you will know the value of these rewards that come from the actions we must take in the present moment. So boredom's natural. Boredom is always going to be there. It's always going to come and go. It's a natural part of life. When we are not super stimulated, we're going to feel bored at times, because the modern world that we live in has created that. It's created these situations where we need constant extreme levels of stimulation, and if we aren't at extreme levels of stimulation, we're bored. That's why videos like this, YouTube videos, that's why you have editors cutting up clips, and even the long form videos, you have such cinematic edits, and it's really not necessary, but it's because our attention spans have become so little and they've become so messed up that to get through a video, the majority of people need cinematic cuts and clips and sound effects and noises, and when in reality, if you're still watching to this point, we're just having a conversation like two people. You're just watching and we're just talking like two normal adult human beings. So embrace the boredom. It's natural. We're going to feel bored at times when we are taking these actions that we must take to reap the rewards in the future. It's natural. It's a part of the journey. It's a part of the process. And yeah, so if you're still watching to this point, thank you for watching. I'm glad to be back with another video, and I'm going to keep it consistent. So if you're still watching, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.